Welcome to ImagineX Growth Room. Now, today we have a very interesting topic, which is omnipresence. I thought about this title for a while in the last few days because omnipresence is one of those words that is a very theological word. I've been to Bible college and we've learned what omnipresence means. And one of the things that I've learned, about this is that it is an attribute of God, right? However, I thought about it in a sense that we are, as humans, we are the image bearers of God, and there are certain attributes of God that, like we're supposed to look like our creator, right? So this is an attribute of our creator that I feel like, yes, like, because I love to challenge myself. It's like, okay, only God is omnipresent, but if we are the image bearers of God, then how does omnipresence look like for us? Is it possible for us to be omnipresent, right? And then I started thinking about it in the context of business and leadership and all of that. And I'm like, yes, absolutely. We can be omnipresent. And the way we become omnipresent is multiplication, right? Multiplication. I'll tell you this. Every single person who's ever been successful, who's making millions of dollars, who's done so well for their life, they have actually mastered this thing called multiplication, or I'll use the theological word omnipresence. And that is, if you have, let's say you work for somebody, right? And they have a team, and that team does something, does specific tasks, right? So that boss is actually practicing omnipresence because he could either by himself do everything, right? Or he could hire people to do the things that they need to do so that he doesn't have to do everything, so he can focus on something else, right? So when somebody asks me, how is ImagineX going? I say it's going great. I'm working very hard, but it's not me who's working. I have people in other countries working for me, right? So I'm practicing multiplication. I'm practicing omnipresence. There is this attribute of God that is called omnipresence, that in order for you to become successful, you have to be able to put into practice, right? And I know sometimes you may think to yourself, okay, what does omnipresence have to do with me, David, as somebody maybe who works for an employer? Maybe I just run a small boutique store, or maybe I'm just studying, or maybe I might be doing a little project here and there. How am I supposed to be omnipresent? But before I go there, I want to give you a little bit of an insight for those who might think me using the title omnipresence, because I know social media is going to go on me with this. Why is he using the word omnipresent? Only God is omnipresent. Yes, absolutely. God is omnipresent, which means he can be everywhere and anywhere at the same time. But let me tell you this. Even though God can be anywhere and everywhere at the same time, obviously in the spirit, there are some limitations physically where now God has to send people who has flesh to do his work. right? So God has this actually beautiful system where he has people all around the world because, God himself, yes, he is omnipresent, but he's not the one who is preaching the gospel all around the world, right? He has agents. He has agents that he has sent to go and advocate for him and, all of that stuff, right? So that's a model even that we can use because yes, he is omnipresent in the spirit, which everywhere is everywhere. But even in the physical, he uses this principle, right, of multiplication, where everywhere in any corner of the world, there are people like he has set up this thing that I'm telling you about in a way that actually makes so much sense, right? You've got obviously denominations, leaders of denominations. You've got pastors who lead the churches, and then those members of the church are sent out to do exploits for God and all that kind of stuff, right? So even though God is omnipresent in the spirit realm, he's actually also using this principle of multiplication so that so that his message and his purpose can be effective all around the world. Let me give you some pointers as to how even in your life you can apply the principle of omnipresence or the principle of multiplication. Because the truth of the matter is, regardless of what level you are in your life, you need to consider the fact that you cannot do everything all by yourself. We have spoken about teachability a lot, and I know that's something that you always remember me for, that word teachability. But you need to understand that you cannot do everything on your own. You cannot do everything on your own. You need to be able to consider and think about how you can multiply yourself. One of the things that people are scared of when it comes to multiplication is that they think that me as an employee, if I multiply myself and maybe train someone, right, to be really good at my job, the truth of the matter is, people are scared to do that because they think that if they multiply themselves, they're going to lose their job, right? Like they have actually lost something. Let me tell you, if you multiply yourself, you've actually gained something. Regardless of what role you have as an employee, or whether you're a mother, or whether you're a student, right? Regardless what that is, you can actually multiply yourself. Let me give you my 4 pointers. The first one is you need to learn how to delegate and empower. Delegate and empower. Delegation is one of those things that, like I said before, people are afraid of that. So delegate. Give people authority. Empower them. It's one thing to delegate, but it's another thing to empower. Okay? It's one thing to delegate, it's another thing to empower. If you don't delegate, you will always be micromanaging. Sorry, if you don't empower, if you just delegate and don't empower, you will always be micromanaging, which means you are now micromanaging what you have delegated. But in order for you to multiply yourself, you need to delegate and empower. Let them come up with a vision and a dream and a plan for how they want to do that role, that job, right? You can always, be there available for you to share your wisdom, but you are only there for wisdom, not to micromanage. I don't know if that makes sense. So it's delegate and empowered. That's really, really important because they go together, because you can't just delegate. You have to also empower. The second thing is establish a process, and document it, right? So now, when you have a project, or there is something that there's a project that you want to do and put together, whether it's a business, whether it's a mini project, or whatever, you need to have processes put together so that whoever is doing the job can just follow that procedure, right? A perfect example of processes and procedures is churches, right? Now, the church system is a world where almost 90% of everyone who works at the church or serves at the church is a volunteer, right? Now, because they are volunteers, they have to be really, really good at processes and procedures, because you need to be able to make it so easy for anybody who doesn't even have that skill to be able to come in and just do that thing, right? For example, if it's let's say, I'll use an example like a small church or whatever, right? Let's say you have a small church and the pastor, now you are the one who puts together the chairs for where everybody sits, right? Now you're thinking to yourself, okay, I need to multiply myself. I need to be omnipresent, right? And so what you do is you delegate and then you empower someone, right? So after that has happened, you have to start thinking to yourself, okay, now beyond that one person that I've delegated, what if that becomes a team, right? When that becomes a team, now is the team going to be able to do that job according to the vision of that job, right? So that is where processes and procedures come in, because you put it together. You even have a photo of, okay, this is where the chairs go, and this is the aisle, where you have to leave some space. If you want to be very precise, you can be like, okay, from 5 centimeters gap for each seat, right? So that now when you've built team, there's a procedure for them to follow. One of the reasons why as a team we use systems like Monday.com, Dropbox, email, and all of that, those things are processes and procedures. We have a process and procedures that everybody has to follow, and there's a reason why behind all of that, right? So it's really, really important, right? The processes and procedures. All right. Now, the third one is you need to be able to find a way to carry, to input your values into whoever you have delegated to. So, and what that is, I'll say in simple terms, build a culture. Build a culture. Let me tell you what culture is, right? A perfect example of culture is Jesus Christ himself, right? Now, when we say the Christian culture, we're talking about every single person who is a follower of Jesus adhering to the same values wherever they are in the world, right? God is the perfect example of this thing called multiplication, because he has been able to multiply himself in every single person who he has given delegation to. And he's used this thing called culture. When we talk about culture, it's culture is not based on what everybody everybody has come up with. Culture is based upon the leader. Culture is the thing that is streamed down from the leader to the rest of the people who are uh, uh, whom he has multiplied himself in, right? That is why you can work for different companies. Let's say you work for 3 companies. Each one of those companies has 3 different cultures, right? Now, you are not allowed to go into one company and say, oh, I'm just going to come in and do my own thing, because that company has already got an established culture that you have to adhere to, right? So as an employee of those 3 companies, you jump into one culture, you have to be able to live according to that one culture. You jump to another one, you live according to that. So you can be living according to 3 separate cultures in your work life because the leader established the culture for everyone. So think about it for yourself. My question is, what are your values? Do you actually even have values? Do you have things that you can pass on and say, hey, these are the things that regardless, okay, I have empowered you, but these are the non-negotiables, right? And non-negotiables culture is not about the systems of how you do things, those practical things. Because if you do that, you are becoming a macromanager, right? Culture is about your overall values. What is your belief system, right? What is your belief system? So that's the key thing for that. Make sure you have values for you to be able to pass on. Because if you don't, you end up just micromanaging people, being like, it is our value to have, it is our culture to have the seats be 3 centimeters apart. No, that is not a value. That's just a little system thing, right? No. Figure out what is it that you truly believe about leadership. What is it that you truly believe about your vision? What is it that you truly believe about your life? And then those are the things that you pass on when you multiply. So I'll leave you guys with those 3 things: delegate and empower, establish processes and procedures, and build a culture. I know I'm talking in the context of our company and our business, but let me tell you this: everything that I share with you, I want you to be able to apply it in your own life. Okay? So what is it about your role or even in your personal life that you're like, man, I need to delegate this? Sometimes it could even be, now we have this beautiful thing called AI, right? For some of us, we need to be okay with AI to be able to delegate AI some things, right? Because we can't do everything, right? So what is it in your own life that you can be like, man, I need to multiply myself? Because you're gonna keep grinding, and you feel like you're not even going anywhere in your life. And if you feel like that today, I want to encourage you. Think about, how can I become omnipresent? How can I be everywhere at the same time? How can I be doing so many things at the same time? Right? So when I say omnipresent, because people on social media may be like, oh, he's saying that you can be omnipresent like God. I didn't say that you can be omnipresent, as in like, I can now travel and fly straight to Nigeria. No. I'm talking about this beautiful principle where you can be present where things matter the most, and then there's a machine that you've built that is working for you.